This is Dr. Karmen Smith, and I'm so happy to be joining you here at Center for Spiritual Living in Greater Las Vegas, where the theme for February is One Journey, Many Paths. And the title of my talk is I Am That I Am. And this is one of my favorite topics because it speaks to the very embodiment of the Christ consciousness. What does that mean? Well, it means that Jesus, when he was speaking about the Father and I are one, he was saying that he was one with the frequency of the divine, the frequency of the universe, those higher levels of frequency. And he had all of the attributes of that God being. And so what he did, what he spoke, where he went, it was directed by the Father, which he called the Father, which is really that energy that is within each and every one of us. It's in our DNA. And this is a time when people are waking up to who they really are. So it's not a time just to intellectualize it. It's not a time just to say the pretty words, repeat the pretty words, but they have no vibrational tonality into your very being. And so this is a time to embody what we've been taught, especially in science of mind. And that is that the Father and I, that energetic spirit, is one with us. And it's not just with me, it is with everyone. And when we become aware of our own spiritual divinity, we're looking through the lens of God. In other words, our eyes are God because we've embodied that. And we look through the eyes of God and we see God in everything and everyone. So a lot of times people will identify with people that they don't like. And what this is that you put your energy on what you don't like. And so that defines you. Oh, I don't like what he said. Oh, I don't like what he stands for. And then that defines you. In other words, you become what you don't like. And when we embody the divine, we embody everything that God is, that creativity, all of those attributes become our attributes. And then we begin to see potential in other people. Rather than focusing on what we don't like about them, we see their potential. And when we see a person's potential, just like we know that is part of us, that potential is able to blossom. Because one of the attributes of God that is most important and most beneficial and most needed now is the feminine creativity energy. So when we see someone and we see their potential and we think about their potential, then we send that vibratory energy to that other person on a level that cannot be seen with the five senses or heard, but we project it outward. And that creativity blossoms in that other person, and we give birth to their potential. This is why it is so important to embody the divine. It is not to speak pretty words or to say love is all there is. It needs to be a vibrational energy in every cell of your body, because at this time, we need that creativity to blossom in creating a new world. The world that we all want to live in. The world where everyone is awake and aware of their potential. Awake and aware of this creativity. Now, in order for this to go deeper into your spiritual soul, you need to have spiritual experiences that touch you at a deep level. What does this mean? I can give you an example in my own life. In my own life, I was working at a job that was a very good job for the county. I was a therapist there. But I did not have a creative outlet. I didn't know that at the time. I knew about the attributes of God because of my mentor, Dr. Paul Leon Masters, who founded the University of Metaphysics. He would always talk about the attributes of God, and he would list them off. Even in the meditations, he would always talk about the attributes of God: compassion, love, gratitude, and creativity. And I would hear them rattled off, but they didn't have any deep, deep soul meaning. And I didn't even know at the time that they didn't have any deep soul meaning. So here I am working at my job, and had deadened or was not aware of these attributes of God. They had not blossomed within me. And then I heard about Tony Hsieh. Tony Hsieh is the CEO of Zappos, and he passed away in 2020. But I remember his spirit and how it touched me specifically. So I'm working at my job, and I heard on the radio, or somehow I heard, that there were going to be, and he had organized, different groups of people, companies, startups, young people, to come and have a stage to talk about their inventions, what they're working on, what their vision is, what apps they've created, and anybody, the general public, could attend. And so I went to one of these. They were called tech cocktails. I'm not in the tech industry, but I was curious because there was a certain energy obviously pulling me there. I went there and I listened to people on the stage, and this was probably 2010, 2011-ish. And people were on the stage and they were talking about how they were going to take regular people's homes and regular people's spaces and turn them into like hotels where you could go on this app that they were creating, and they would turn it into what later was Airbnb. They were going to upset the taxi industry by having people's own cars, and you could hail a car and they could take you places, but it's not a taxi service, it's a regular person in their regular car. And I didn't know that these were going to be things like Uber and Lyft, but at the time they were talking about having medical services online. And so one company after another would get up and talk, and we were all sitting around in these bean bags. And one of the things that I specifically remember was there was an energy in that room. And I could feel it. And as an empath that can pick up on subtle energies, I picked up on a vibrational frequency of creativity. And I remember being so elated and so inspired, not that I was going to start a company or that I was going to take coding classes or anything like that, but it was an energy of possibility. And I had never really felt that before. I've heard people talk about, like I said, my mentor would talk about the attributes of God being creativity. But what creativity does, and this energy did, was it created a space for things to come out of nothing, for something to be created from nothing. And being in that space was life-altering, because I began to feel what the Bible, what sages, what Jesus, and what my mentor was talking about. That there is a frequency that can bring forth something from nothing. And these people in that room showed me collectively that we can do that. And in times like these, we need to embody that energy, because we need to know within our soul, within our bone structure, within our marrow, that all things are possible. Tony Hsieh showed me that. And so I really appreciate a spirit that can bring that forth and show that it exists and that it's possible. So today, what are the attributes of God that you can embody and know that it's true, that can bring forth the impossible, not only in your life, because I've certainly seen it in my life, but can also be vibrated out and directed towards the world? Because there's something about embodiment that is what the world needs. 2020 showed us that in the midst of chaos, what do you stand for? In the midst of chaos and fear, are you embodying fearlessness? Are you embodying power? One of the things that was revealed to me in my journey was that there is a power that is greater than anything that I've ever known that can come from within you. And when I allow and when I choose to say yes to this spirit and embody the presence of God within me, there is a power that comes forth. And at first, when it first came forth, I'm going to say it was probably 2002, 2003. I was teaching at a Wednesday service at the University of Metaphysics. And I was teaching the service. And all of a sudden, towards the end of the service, there was a powerful voice that came through my mouth. But it started way down in here, and it was almost like my chest opened up and a light shot out. Now, this was a surprise to me because I'm an instrument, and when I allowed myself to be an instrument, something came forth that I did not plan, that I did not foresee. And so it shot out, and it, this voice, this booming voice, this booming power came out of me. I allowed it to, but I was an observer. I was totally taken aback. So at the end of service, one of my friends that was in the audience came up, and she was in awe, just like I was. But then there were people that I didn't know, and they were coming up to me and saying how they enjoyed the service and what was I going to do after the service. And I'm still, imagine me with my mouth kind of open going, what was that? And I was able to process it with my friend, and she noticed it too. She said, what was that? And I said, well, that was not coming from me, but it was coming from me. This is how the embodiment experience presents itself sometimes. I know it's presented itself in me when I choose to be an instrument to say, yes, I will embody this Spirit of God. I will be the voice. I will be the action. I will be the hands and feet of the Divine Spirit. When we actually have practices in place and we choose to do this and choose to live our life this way, we are no longer a part of the matrix. In other words, this system that's built up to tap down this God energy and this embodiment, which is all about freedom and freedom of expression and inspiration and seeing potential and not feeding into conflict and fear. That's when you break through the matrix, when you choose to embody the divine. I am that I am means that you are powerful and you allow that power to come forth in a way that expresses as you, through you. When you say I am that I am, you allow that art, that beauty, that love, that compassion. But most of all, you allow potential. So when there is sickness, You allow potential for health because your whole vibrational energy is all aligned to the healthiest, strength of your DNA, which is divinity. And so you allow that potential to be exposed and created right there. And that's what that energy can do. But it's when you embody it, not when you say the pretty words and they only go from your intellect out of your mouth. But it's when your intellect is combined with your heart, and then your heart speaks of compassion and love, and your cells hear it. And it jumps to attention because now you have awakened the I am within you. This I am is the world that is being created now. The I am is the world that is already in a dimensional space of prosperity and abundance. And that is the world that we all have access to once we embody this. I want to give you 2 practices that can really help you embody this I am spirit. One of them is a daily practice of when you get up in the morning, just having a notepad and writing down I am, and then fill in the blank. Fill in the blank with the first thing that comes into your mind, because you are going to be inspired by that inner voice. I am, and write it down. I've been keeping an I am journal for the past 5, maybe 8 years. Every day I write down who I am, because it's going to dictate everything that happens in my day. As Jay-Z said, everything great comes from knowing who you are. And so a great day, a great life, always needs an affirmation. I'm affirming who I am every day. The other thing is something that I learned with the Tony Hsieh experience, is that I am open to anything that vibrates with that energy of God. And when I showed up at Tech Cocktails, I didn't know what to expect, but I was open to feeling into a vibration that I was so receptive to and so responded to and recognized as a creative potential energy. I remember being so excited, and I went back to my coworkers the next day, and at lunchtime when they wanted to talk about other people and criticize other people or criticize a meeting or do this or complain about the work, I wanted to talk about, I experienced this energy, and it's every Tuesday, and you guys can come too. Why don't we all go together? It was this creative energy. And what did I hear back? Crickets. I was talking about something that they didn't want to know about. It was more like Karmen's a little wacky, or Karmen's over exaggerating. They wanted to go back to a lower frequency of talking about people and events that they didn't like, and they were identifying with something that they didn't like. Meanwhile, I was on a journey that was only going to take me higher. Because now, oh baby, I was going to be identifying with that higher level of frequency that is my identity. And it started me on a journey. So remember, have a practice of being open to vibrations that connect with your highest self. Experiencing and looking for those things that are vibrating with that energy that is higher. And when you have a practice of writing down, I am, and filling in the blank every day, and when you have a practice of looking for and being open to vibrations that are higher energy and identifying, saying, that's who I am. I recognize what that is. Oh, that's love. That's potential. That's creativity. That's compassion. That's joy. Ooh, and that's power. And it's bliss. And then you embody it. And once you embody it, that divine energy is in a space of potential. Now you can visualize. Now you can heal. Now you can be. And when you are being this energy, and somebody asks you who you are, what else can you say but I am that I am?